right.
Hello, hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
What is OpenSSF operations?
Probably Jory or one of the LF folks.
Just looking, looks like we're Abhishek, Dan, the other TAC members that are missing. There's Abhishek, a bunch of other people. All right, we'll just wait another minute or so for quorum and then we'll get started.
Hello.
Good morning. All right, I guess we will go ahead and kick off here. So welcome to today's meeting. Got a few bullets in the agenda for today. If folks have any other topics, feel free to add them to the top of the section right ahead of the meeting, and we'll add them in if we have time. Just looking at the attendance, it looks like we have quorum from all TAC members present. So I think we're okay to move on to the first item on the agenda. This was discussed at the last meeting where we had discussions around elections for the chair of the TAC. And I believe it was Luke raised a proposal to nominate Ava to serve as vice chair, or whoever, I guess, didn't win the election to serve as vice chair. So now that the election results are in, I would like to accept a motion to nominate Ava to be the vice chair of the TAC. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I would like to make that motion.
Thank you, Crow. Anyone second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dan. All right. All in favor?
Yep, sounds good to me.
Anyone opposed? All right, well then I think we'll take that as a confirmation. So thank you, Ava, for being willing to step up and help.
Thank you all for having me.
Totally welcome. All right, next on the agenda, we got Krob with a question around grooming the issues on the TAC repo. So Krob, over to you.
Yeah, I had stumbled across the issue tracker. I was looking up the election issue, And I noticed we had a lot of outstanding issues, and would that be of interest to the TAC to go through and groom those at some point? So we can start fresh, either add items to the future agenda or close things out that are done. Like I had one for one of my working groups that was closed out months ago, but still open as an issue.
I mean, makes logical sense to me. Being new to the TAC, I guess I'll defer to some of the folks that were here before around kind of what the current state of things are.
Yeah, they definitely need a good cleanup, bit of housekeeping. I'm sure there's some stale stuff there.
I mean, I think this is one of those royal we issues, like someone's got to own it, you know? Do you want to own it, Crow, or are you just suggesting someone owns it?
There are 25 issues and 7 of us, maybe each TAC member takes 7 things, tries to figure out what the state of it is and either closes it or adds it in as part of our docket of stuff to address. Would that be acceptable to kind of ease the burden?
Probably be easier for just to blitz through it. I'd recommend just in your copy cache, just have a message saying, hey, this issue, let's say issues that are more than 3 months old, sort by greater than 3 months, and then just paste in, there's been no activity on this issue recently. If you're still interested in keeping this open, please reply. If not, I will close by lazy consensus in 7 days, something like that.
I will take that action item then.
Cool.
And echoing what Brian wrote in the chat, I would suggest all TAC members make sure you are getting notifications and following this repo. As a new TAC member, I'm going to go double check that I have that turned on right now.
A great point.
Does everyone actually have the appropriate triage permissions and stuff too for this repo? That's something else we can check and scrub.
That is a good point. I don't think I've gotten any notice of being added to, as an owner or permission changes.
So Dan, I think, do we know who's actually admin on it right now?
I have admin, and it looks like there's a TAC team that is stale and has a bunch of old members. So I can take the AI to clean up that TAC team and make sure that that is correct.
Gotcha. That'd be great. Thank you, Dan. Right. Any other comments on the approach there to quickly triage things? I think just done a very quick scan, it looks like some of the issues, I think, in terms of election process and whatnot, maybe moot. But yeah, to go through and I would say if there's an issue that somebody on the TAC feels particularly passionate about that they would like to step up and like to drive to closure, then feel free to jump in and get engaged on those issues. And we'll just try to stay on top of that as we go forward. All right. On to the next topic. I know in prior meetings, kind of the status of, formalizing the project donation and kind of the progression and life cycle around specific projects, as well as working groups has been previously discussed. Like to kick it over to Ava to give a brief update, but with the following preface of I'd rather not use this forum as a working session to try to solve those issues, but more just to try to understand, are we making progress? If there are any blockers that we need to bring to folks' attention, this would be a great forum for that, but we're not looking to solve and ratify anything today on this particular topic.
Thank you for the context, Bob. The quick update is Anna and I have been chatting, taking a look at what worked for us and other foundations in the past. Don't have anything, shiny and new to share here. And some of our discussion has also had to sort of partition off talking about Alpha Omega. And I'm anticipating other projects. I see Persia on the agenda today as well. As other projects are coming in or recently added, but it's unclear what to do with them in terms of structuring the relationships between governing board, TAC, and project. Those discussions are all kind of happening in parallel. So part of this is also just unmuddying the high level. How do we want to look at existing projects or working groups that have been here for a year or two versus new projects. There is some discussion happening on GitHub issue number 83. I added a comment just last night. I see 3 more comments since then I haven't seen this morning. So I'd love to point folks towards that issue. I will copy it into the chat here for feedback and discussion there. And if you have other examples that have worked well or you've seen work well, please link them there. We'd love more input.
Awesome. Any other comments or questions on that topic from folks?
I'll just make a quick comment. So this is Steve Chen, and I'm also one of the folks working on the Bercia project. So we're interested to have a good process and way of doing intake of projects. And I'd also mentioned that it'd be great to talk about the project and what we're doing on it, and followed up and said that, obviously if there's time, we're happy to do it, but it might make sense to wait until the project process is a little bit more formalized as well. So.
Great. Yeah, if you don't mind waiting a little bit, I think that will reduce the complexity, the number of things we're juggling as we look at the project progression process right now. So thank you.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And, we're happy to help.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, I think getting clarity on this is a top, if not the top priority for the TAC at the moment. So I don't want it to come across at all as being dismissive or not wanting to hear from different projects. I think it's just a matter of sequencing to make sure that we do the right thing to write down what our intended process to be, socialize that, get feedback on that, and then ultimately, assuming that we can drive to consensus around ratifying that, I think then it's, and love to have your input and perspective, Stephen and others, around that as we try to actually ratify the intended donation. And
yeah, that sounds good. We'll contribute to the issue that that Eva mentioned, and I think have some experience from doing donations to other foundations where I think we can give some insights into things which have worked or best practices we've seen.
Awesome. All right, any other points of feedback on that? All right, if not, we'll, I think, kind of a segue over to a topic that I believe Jory added around kind of a playbook or support resources, not specifically around project donation, but for working groups and specific initiative funds. So Jory, over to you.
Jory's not here right now, so I'll take it on her behalf because we had talked about it recently. So we'd like to try to find a way to bring a little bit more reproducibility, process, consistency across the way that the working groups work. And part of it is purely operational, from scheduling and calendaring and that kind of thing, to thinking about how they kind of conduct meetings, but also how they report up to the TAC. And how they manage their processes. So we thought one of the really most constructive ways to go about this, really this was Jory's idea, was to work with the working group leads and anybody for here in the TAC interested on a playbook to kind of describe current practices and kind of look for opportunities to at least harmonize across what most people are doing, and then from there think about ways to build on that and do more. And so it was really just to kind of float the idea. I'm not sure if Jory had a specific next step other than she, I think, or has already either already sent a mail or is about to send a mail to the working group leads suggesting this. I'm not sure if she has a starting point document yet, but just to kind of raise it and raise some discussion here about what you all might like to see on it. And I think probably to see if there's any volunteers who'd like to really help with the initial stage of the drafting.
Brian, have you seen my comment on issue 83 that I was just talking about?
Didn't see your it's on
I added it yesterday. So I asked because what you just described sounds very similar. when I mentioned a few minutes ago working on the project progression, I should have been more precise. I meant taking a look at all technical initiatives using the terminology from our charter, which includes working groups and SIFs. And I proposed in there that the TAC approaches the same task you just described by creating a set of questions for each technical initiative, working group, or project to complete. Since I couldn't find documentation on even who the points of contact for all the working groups are in GitHub right now. So that's one of the many starting points, is just who are the points of contact, then getting a status report back from them, collecting all the responses, putting that in GitHub. I would propose we then set a cadence for regular reviews and have a review with each technical initiative to the TAC. That is the then starting point for, I think, what you're describing as well as what I was describing. How does that sound?
Sounds great. No, regular reporting to the TAC and is I think a key element of what I've seen work at other projects. So yeah, sounds good. Did you have a draft of those kinds of questions already started in that issue?
I laid out the sort of proposed approach in that issue, and I'd love to gather more questions in that issue before maybe 2 weeks from now, in the next TAC meeting, we can as a group review that set of questions, finalize it, and then send it off to all the technical initiatives for getting answers back.
I see Jory has joined. Jory, I just introduced the idea that we talked about yesterday and set up a conversation. Ava suggests the first step being a kind of I guess a survey of the working group leads and answering some basic questions just to get started on that, understanding what we have and where there's opportunities to do more.
Great. Sorry for being a little late. I was like in the zone and my calendar didn't notify me that it was afternoon. So I did send an email out to the WG leads list yesterday. If you aren't on that list and you think you ought to be, please let me know so I can add you. Ava, I think I need to add you and Bob since there was a TAC election while I was out. But that would be a great place too for this conversation and these comments that you're bringing up.
And I guess Jory, sorry, I did see your email. I guess that what I took away from it was more of a, and if I'm mischaracterizing it, please correct me, more of an operational consistency of let's use the same Zoom tooling, let's have meeting notes put in the same spot, let's follow the same Slack channel constructs versus, and I think it's certainly related in how I interpret it, but also to how does that extend into the overall working group structure? And I guess the phrase I've been using in my mind are more of the, and this is a bit of a sales term, but what are the gives and gets for a working group? If for somebody to come along and say, I want to create a new project, or I want to donate this project, or I want to create a new working group, to show up to the TAC and give that update is awesome. But I think to what you were describing, it's that support from the OpenSSF that I ultimately get as part of doing that. So kind of teasing out, what are the support constructs and the consistency in leveraging those? What benefits does that bring to a working group or a project versus, how does that fit into the overall scope of the life cycle of one of these things, which is more of what I think issue 83, Ava, you were discussing there. Am I mixing two things, or are these adjacent and related, I guess is my broader question.
I think that's a great kind of disambiguation of like the two concerns. Definitely my message yesterday was focused on that operational piece because we were talking about those little paper cuts, so to speak, of what happens when a new person kind of comes to the community and that meeting was canceled and they didn't know, or they had an out of date Zoom link, or, things like that, which are things that we should be caretaking so that we make like onboarding into this community like a dream experience, which is something that I'd like for us to have, and working with you leads to figure out what that dream experience should be and making that somewhat consistent across all the WGs would be great. Now, of course, what that means and sort of like the overall like values and how we want that to feel, that should come from you all. And you tell me, so to speak, what best looks like, best in class looks like, and then me and Jen and OpenSSF staff will work really hard to make that reality.
Okay, awesome. I know there's a little bit of back and forth going on in the chat. I don't know if folks want to raise some of those points in the.
Yeah, I think one of the things to start from is defining and writing down in our GitHub docs or docs on GitHub, the difference between working group, committee, project, SIG or SIF, special interest group, special interest fund. I encountered the term SIF yesterday, so I think Joy might correct me on what that means. SIG is the terminology in other foundations for a special interest group. And so, for example, in the CNCF and CCC, each of these 3 different types of entities, committee, working group, and SIG, have different life cycles, different goals, different gives and gets to Bob's term. And in Kubernetes, there is no project because Kubernetes is a project. So CNCF has projects. So all these definitions, we all need to write them down and agree on them. I'm happy to take a first pass. Would anybody be concerned if I wholesale copy the definitions of those 4 terms from the CNCF, make a PR with that, and then we can discuss nuances that might need to change here? But is that a good starting point?
Yeah, actually, I like that as a starting point, just because it also makes it easier for folks coming in to potentially have a model that's more aligned with other foundations they're also participating in.
Great. Then I will take that action item to copy that, open a PR with those base definitions, and we can, debate the finer points from there.
Yeah, I'm totally supportive of that. I would say to the chat comments, yeah, we should open source it. We should reuse and try to be as consistent as possible. And if it makes sense to deviate, we should deviate. But in general, I think for that onboarding experience and being very clear and upfront around when we say project, what do we mean? When we say working group, what do we mean? It may sound trivial and we all have our own definitions in our head around it, but it's really important for folks who are engaging in the community for the first time to really understand the structure. And so I think this is a great effort to try to bring the house in order.
And Bob, just to add, it'll help you all go faster later. It may sound really boring now, but if we get this nailed down nice and clean, then when we say, hey, that sounds like it should be a SIF, we'll know exactly what we mean, and we can come to agreements much more quickly. Or disagreements.
Totally agree. Discussion is what we're after. So, but getting to some sort of a consistent nomenclature to have those discussions is what's important. So yeah, +1.
Yeah, there was a fun conversation earlier this week between 2 groups where we just didn't have the same expectations of even the meeting, and it went sideways. It's like, that's a waste of a half hour. So let's get the terms right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Anything else on this particular topic? All right. Next item on the agenda, I added in and just marked it as all. It was more of just a chance. I know there was obviously always working group meetings going on, but one topic in particular was that the proposed package manager, I forget the official name, Chuck, you'll have to correct me on that, but we had our first meeting post the last TAC discussion. So I don't know if you wanted to share any update on that here or any other just quick updates if we wanted to kind of go around the horn on working groups.
I can give a quick update. Very preliminary meeting. The topics that have come up so far have been comparing some of the work that's been done in Ruby gems and is being done in Python, or Python, I guess, is the American pronunciation. It's still pretty early days. I think the main thing is that we're also at a stage where, one, we were looking for OpenSSF as a home. So that was one topic that arose pretty early. It seems like an obvious clearinghouse. The other thing is outreach, making sure that we're not sort of completely inside our own little bubble of just a few different ecosystems, but ensuring that ecosystems in general who want to participate can participate. the final thing that's happening is that Bob and I are collaborating on defining the goals for that group, or defining a goals document based on discussions that have already happened and feedback we've already heard from folks. I think it's coming together pretty well. To give you some idea of this, this originally started as a casual conversation between 2 of us working on Ruby Gems and 3 people working on Python. So there was 5 in the original invite, and 18 people showed up. And the last one, I think, had something like 30 people when we were sort of looking at as you know, coming in under the OpenSSF. So it's growing fast. There's a lot of interest.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for that. Any questions on that, or any other working group, Grove, anything from, not to put you on the spot, but any updates from vulnerability groups? I know that came up in the last TAC discussion around the OSV project. I didn't know if there's anything you want to share there.
So we talked with the OSV project, and we will be eagerly waiting on Ava and the group's collaboration on the new project or working group ingestion process. So I think there's definitely collaboration opportunities there between the Vuln Disclosure Group and the OSV group. And I think that they are potentially looking to donate certain parts of their project or infrastructure to the foundation. So we want to wait. We have a repeatable process to kind of introduce them to that. And then we picked up our next project for the Vuln Disclosures Working Group. We're going to create a CVD guide to help security researchers better engage with open source maintainers and projects. And we are thinking about, our target is to unveil that at Black Hat. Would be our dream goal, is to try to talk about it there. So lots of exciting things going on in vulnerability world.
You scared me briefly. I didn't think I volunteered for something yesterday.
No,
Thank
you did
for
not.
clarifying that.
No, you did not. And again, it's all
yeah,
introducing them formally to the foundation as like we want to donate stuff. I want to make sure we have a process. And
Totally.
I am, a bunch of people here are going to help collaborate on getting that process defined. But the working group still will collaborate with OSV as we have opportunities to do that. But that's not dependent on the issue 83.
Yeah, I think to that point, I think we don't want to halt all other discussions until we have a process in place, but we need to get that process in place with some urgency so that we can not arbitrarily block things just out of a lack of clarity. So, all right, anyone else want to make any other working group updates? If not, I don't see anything else added to the agenda. So, Stephen, I don't know if you're in a spot where you wanted to give a brief update on Persia for the email discussion.
Yeah, so I mean, I think given where we are on the process for project ingestion, it's probably easier to digest for the TAC if we wait until that's farther along, and then I can go over the project in detail. But I mean, just in a few words, I think we, in general, we're trying to solve the distribution issue for secure open source software. We have been working, in a public repo in GitHub in a collaboration with several companies, including several OpenSSF members. I think we've also been trying to keep an open process. So we have community meetings, architecture meetings, and other public meetings on the calendar, and I'm getting good participation in those. Again, from multiple companies and OpenSSF members, and even some community members and interested parties have come in through there, which is great. And I'd be happy to go into more detail at a future call once we have the project process more fleshed out.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Any questions? All right, Jory, I want to give you the floor for the last comment you put in chat around the election coming up.
Yeah, this is just a quick FYI. So that we have 33 general members now for the OpenSSF, which is amazing. And per our bylaws, we have one general member representative for every 10 seats. So that means we're going to be kicking off an election soon for 2 new general members. Be thinking if there are folks from your, if you're a member company, if there's folks from your organization that would make a great candidate for that spot, encourage them to nominate by emailing us at operations@openssf.org. I'll send all of this information to the general members email list, and that goes out to your org's voting and technical representatives. So you have that coverage, but be on the lookout for that very soon if that's you. And congrats, because that's awesome to grow 20 plus members in 2 months, 3 months. It's wild.
Yep, awesome. And apologies, I just looked over and realized I had missed a couple hands in the Zoom chat. So again, my apologies. I don't know whether folks are clapping or looking to make comments, so I'll just pause here.
I can give a late update on securing critical projects. I know you've already missed my voice in the last few minutes. Yeah, so generally, I think 2 things that are emerging in securing critical projects at the moment is, first of all, working out how to rank different projects in terms of the risk they represent that we're trying to retire. And second of all, how to create outreach to experts we need to help perform that ranking. Those have been the 2 major topics that we've been pursuing. Julia, her last name escapes me just at the second. Sorry, from Twitter, has been working on outreach, and I worked a bit on the ranking question. So that's still a work in progress, but it's looking promising. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. So that's currently ongoing.
Okay, awesome. All right, with that, we were at the end of the list of items on the agenda. I guess I'll make one call for any other topics folks want to discuss. Once, twice. Sold. All right, well, thanks everyone for your attendance and participation, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Take care.
Thanks.